if we go way, way back, I think everybody else saw me as a writer before I saw myself as a writer. I recently, when my mom passed away a few years ago, I was going through her house and, you know, all the stuff that moms save. And I had all these projects from school back in the day. And there was one in 5th grade that everybody, or it was like maybe like 10 people in the class had to write what they thought me would be when I grew up. And then you wrote what you thought you were going to be when you grew up. And almost, I think every single entry said that I would be a writer. Most of them said writer or journalist. And then a few of them said communications person, like, you know, communicator. Well, mine said basketball player or professional singer. So there's a little bit of disconnect there, and you know, my mom always told me I was a great writer, but whose mom doesn't tell them that, right? So for me, the turning point that I did get my degree in sociology, I think it was like the first love of mine told me I was a great writer, and I'm such a romantic that I just like took off with it. You know, I think she could have said, "You're a great painter," and then I don't know, but that's when it came into my mind that perhaps I had a skill here. I did, however, still get my degree in sociology, and then it's all been divinely guided. I moved to Portland, Oregon after I graduated college and thought I'd get some sort of sociology type thing, and in one day I got 2 jobs being writing and marketing writing. So it went from there. And then I did really finally realize it clicked into place to me that yes, writing is what I like and what I'm good at. But until I started Spirit Guides magazine, did I realize that it really is communication in general. Now we're doing the podcast and we're doing video stuff and courses and all kinds of different ways of communicating. Now I'm doing speaking, like I'll be doing for Soul Summit. So for me, it really was kind of a shock to realize it's communication in all forms. And then to go back to Spirit Guides and just how it formed, it was birthed. You know, some people who have been in the Soul Summit AREI circuit know this about me, but a lot don't. But it was a project that was birthed from death. I mean, it was an idea I always had and was basically too afraid to do, because I was getting somehow paid good money to write, you know, in a corporate environment. And so it was like I had this idea, but I didn't have the kind of fire or courage to just quit everything and do it. Well, once you're faced with death and you really see how short and precious life is, and your mom is on her deathbed saying, "Hey, Arizona, follow your dreams no matter what the cost. Don't worry about money." Well, it gets to you. So really, after she passed away, I had my experience grieving, and then I said, all right, I've got to do it. Spirit Guides magazine, I know I've got to do it. And my background was in magazine work, so it fit together. And since then, it's really evolved into something I could never have imagined, truly. Yeah, I think that it's interesting because there was definitely a void. I at the time after my mom passed and I went through that grief, I was living in Sedona, Arizona, which is a very, very spiritually open town. And I realized that I was one of the youngest people there into this stuff, and B, there was really a void in the way that the spiritual messaging didn't relate to me in my generation. And I literally called up my one spiritual friend that I knew and was like, let's do this. Like, let's bring this, let's give it a fresher face, not better, but for our generation, just a facelift basically, and use words that they can relate to and use images that they can relate to. But the great and just shocking thing to me is that it is really hitting the hearts of a lot of people, regardless of age, way younger than I thought, because millennials, this little bracket, we are having teenagers email us talking about how the podcast has influenced or changed or however affected their lives. And then same thing with 75-year-olds. So it did start to fill this void, but it turns out the void isn't just millennials, but we do have a lot of millennial listeners. So it's like we hit the target market, but it's also been really eye-opening to us that it's bigger than that. That we don't care. I was gonna do a millennial and curse, but I won't. But that we don't give a woohoo, right? That's the big misconception, I would say, with spirituality. And it's, yes, of course, there are in any age range brackets that just aren't hearing it, seeing it, feeling it, whatever. But what I've seen with my own 2 eyes as being someone who's stepped up as a leader in this field is that people are really, really my age, are really, really hungry for connection, both with people, which to me, that's oneness. So that's spiritual in nature. And so even if they can't put a name on it, they're wanting connection, which is to me spiritual. But also they are wanting the spiritual stuff. They're wanting the elder wisdom that doesn't, especially in America, exist anymore. You know, in indigenous cultures, it's the elders are revered and respected, and that's not the case necessarily in the Western culture. And we kind of just throw the older people with wisdom into homes and you know, go visit once a month. But we want that elder wisdom. And so I think this is what's so cool to me about Soul Summit and AREI is that, and then my place in it, is that we can really make that bridge, because there's so much wisdom from so many just profound people in this world, and so many people in my world who are hungry to be mentees and apprentice with people like that. So I think the misconception is that people's kids or people, young people they don't know, don't care. I think that they do, and it's just about being more approachable. And here's another thing. I have another answer to that question, what they can do, and this is what I'm trying to do. And I didn't know that I was going to try to do this. A lot of the things along my path have been, I couldn't have foreseen, but what we need to do, especially when we're talking about afterlife stuff, and it's exactly why I'm so stoked for Soul Summit, is that, yeah, the afterlife, death, dying, the afterlife, all of those big questions and explorations are the biggest informant on how to live life, right? But in this spiritual or afterlife or whatever world we're talking about, we like to just stay there and stay in meditation land and stay in spiritual and stay in mediumship afterlife world. But for what we can do for my generation is, this is why they care about life. A lot of people my age or younger have not had, even my peers, I'm one of the only people I know who has lost a parent or someone significant to them, you know, somebody in your core that kind of really shakes up your life. And until that point, we care about life. Doesn't mean we don't care about spirituality, right? Or anything like that. We want to live our best lives as well. So it's really about taking that afterlife knowledge and that knowledge that we learn from looking at those big concepts of death and dying, and kind of like sneaking them in for younger generations. It's like, these are the lessons that the afterlife and looking at death in the face has taught me about life. And that's what I'm going to be talking about at Soul Summit. Sure, I would. And I'd like to be fully millennial right now and be like, I know as much as you do, because a lot of it's going to happen on the stage for me. And, you know, I'm a procrastinating millennial. We don't know what it's about yet. No, I'm just kidding. I totally you know, we're going to talk about, this is what I'm saying. The title is Living Your Best Life Now, What Death Has Taught Me About How to Live My Highest Vibrational Life, or something like that. But that is the gist, because that is my life. I mean, I have now a really wonderful life. I live in Spain. I do what I love. I have a beautiful partner, and, you know, everything, I'm in the flow, and there's a reason for it. And there's actually a formula to it. And we just have to be brave enough to look at those harder topics. And so my talk is going to talk a lot about what I have learned from someone very, 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 the most important person in my life passing on, and me being there for that experience, being there for all of the experiences before and during and after that, and just being brave enough to show up to study and explore death, and then really what happens to us after we die. Because it's so, if we don't fear death, we don't fear life. So my talk's going to be a hopefully inspiring talk on that, and how what I've learned over my journey, because we can talk about it in 5 minutes right now, but it really is, it's a cool story. And so I'm really excited to share it with everybody there. The most excited thing I am about it is the diversity of the experiences and the diversity of the panel. And for me, it's a really cool way for me to, because, you know, I'm a podcast host. I talk to people all over the world all week long, every day, doing podcasts. And we do it all over Skype. I never see their faces. And so for me, it's kind of like a time to do a live panel, a live podcast. And so I get to put into play my passion, and which is really asking people questions and getting the wisdom out of their brains. And we have just a handful of amazing people on this panel. So I'm excited to see what they have to say. Hands down, synergy. And yes, it's so awesome as a millennial. We can all meet online. I can do my podcast online. I have an online group where we all do spiritual stuff all the time on Zoom, much like we're doing today. But being together in person with hundreds of like-minded souls that have similar interests, that sometimes people are coming to these things, they can't talk to anybody in their life about this. So it's the belonging, it's the synergy, and it's the lifelong friendships that form. Yes, there's awesome experiences. We walk away with awesome knowledge, but it's the friendships. I've been coming to this conference for 3 years now. And for me, what I'm most excited about this year is all the people that I've met years prior, but also all the people that I've met who have never been before, but I know online, and we all get to meet in person and remain lifelong friends. You can't force that. And there's just something that happens when you're in the same room as somebody. And it's just, there's no pretension. There's no ego. I've been to a lot of conferences and a lot of events. This is a loving, inspiring, uplifting event. And it's absolutely my favorite one that I go to every year. One tip to instantly raise your vibe, no matter what situation you're in, no matter what day, no matter who you're talking to, who you're not talking to, no matter what, is gratitude, hands down. Number one. That's my number one thing. Because this is how gratitude works. If you're feeling sad, you're feeling low, anything, it instantly raises your vibration, instantly. And that's what I practice every single day.